So the Never Bernie movement, um, I just kind of discovered. I mean, I knew there was a Never Bernie movement, but I didn't realize how big it was and how many people were attached to it. Many voters, the New York Times brought out a piece, and they talked to a lot of Democratic voters, and almost all of the ones that they talked to kept repeating those two words. Well, whatever we can to stop Bernie. Well, I'll vote for whoever it is, but Bernie. Never Bernie. Now, ultimately, I really want to know why. Many of them said, well, for political and personal reasons. What's the personal reason? I mean, seriously, are you anti-Semitic? Do you hate him because he's a Jew? Like, what else could you hate about him, like, personally? Like, I hate his suits. They're too cheap. Like, really? That's a weird one to say. I have personal reasons why I wouldn't vote for Bernie. Like, why I would choose anyone else but him. Like, would he cut you off? Like, why do you have personal reasons against him? But anyway, if it's not anti-Semitic, by the way, not playing the race card, just saying it's weird. Um, I'd be curious what the political issues are too, considering that Medicare for All is overwhelmingly popular in the Democratic base, and that's Bernie's major platform is Medicare for All. And it's not just Medicare for All, by the way, free education. That's another Bernie Sanders thing. And Democrats also really love that. In fact, a lot of populist right like that idea as well. So why never Bernie? I found this weird. And I guess I probably shouldn't have. Because after I was reading this article and I was reading what these people had to say, it all came about to be electability. In fact, many of the people who said never Bernie said, well, actually, I like him as a candidate. I think he's approachable, but I just don't know if he can beat Trump. I don't know if he would have what it takes to unseat an incumbent president. Many of these kept polling that. And then it dawned on me. These people all watch MSNBC and CNN, namely MSNBC, who has spent, I don't know, the better part of a year bashing Bernie Sanders, talking about how toxic the Bernie bros are. I'm a Bernie bro. I don't consider myself to be toxic. I rarely get in fights with anyone, and if anything, I just correct misinformation. Sorry, Joe Biden didn't get arrested trying to visit Nelson Mandela. It never happened. Elizabeth Warren did not get fired because she was pregnant. It just, unfortunately, for your candidate, did not happen. That doesn't mean I'm toxic. That means I'm fact checking. And yes, some Bernie supporters are toxic. So were some Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg and everyone else. Everyone on the internet is goddamn toxic. It doesn't matter who you support. I imagine if Jesus had an account, he would be trolling a lot of people. It's just the way it is. It's the internet. But nothing more than anyone else. But MSNBC has constantly called Bernie Sanders supporters, have akined them to Nazis, as we said, toxic, and ultimately that he just can't beat Trump. They've talked about the electability issue more than anything. And that's when it clicked. It's all cable news. That's why these people are voting against their best interests. And it's funny because these people are the ones who say Republicans vote against their best interest. But like here, they really are. Like it's not just, oh, they don't understand how this could help and that could help them, so they're voting against it. No, no, no. These people agree with Bernie's principles. They agree with Medicare for all. They agree with free education. But then they are tricked by whatever MSNBC, CNN pundit they see, and they say, well, I, and as quoted from one of the voters, Medicare for all can wait 4 more years. I'm going to vote for Biden because he can beat Trump now. Okay. Number one, Medicare for all cannot wait 4 more years. Okay. I would be shocked if Bernie Sanders even runs again. And quite honestly, I hope he doesn't. I hope he passes the torch on, or I don't know. Maybe us Bernie supporters go somewhere else and we try something else. Um, there's been certain people who've suggested that maybe we're on the wrong side of the aisle, and I'm questioning that myself. But regardless, Biden can't beat Trump. I think that's the most important thing. Joe Biden is not electable. In fact, when MSNBC and CNN were talking about this, like, very intangible electability, claim that he has, they never once brought up the fact that until this year, he's never won a primary. His win in South Carolina was his first in over 30 years of being a politician. That was his first. That's not electable. That's trash. I mean, understand this. During this primary, Buttigieg, who's only been in politics for like a couple weeks, had more wins at one point than Joe Biden had ever had in his career. And you're telling me that this loser is more electable than a Pete Buttigieg who's young and he's winning and he's hot, he's off the gate, he's flying? But no, Biden's more electable. By the way, don't like Buttigieg, but I'm just saying. It it all comes down to mainstream media controlling narratives. Look, I know that sounds horrible to say, but it's true. And part of me wonders, did they understand that the Never Bernie movement is actually going to allow for Trump to win? You see, enthusiasm. That's a key in winning a presidency. An excited base is something you must have. You need your voters to want to get out there and vote for you, campaign for you, caucus for you, whatever they got to do. You need that base. Joe Biden doesn't have it. Namely, because most of his supporters just got on his team last week. Before that, they were still Elizabeth Warren or Klobuchar until CNN said, nah, they can't win, go to Biden. Biden's the only one who can beat Trump. When they took their marching orders without even knowing it and got behind Biden, that's when they got there. 24% of Joe Biden supporters consider their level of enthusiasm to be very high. 49% say they're not even sold on Joe Biden. 22% are so-so. Those are awful numbers. Joe Biden, during a pandemic, by the way, in which Donald Trump's economy, his great glowing economy that was going to push him forward, has crashed and turned into the saddest thing we've ever seen. In this pandemic, where Donald Trump has made a complete fool of himself, Joe Biden's only beating him by 2 points. What does that say about Joe Biden? And remember, at this time in 2016, Clinton was beating Trump by 11 points. And she got crushed in the actual election. So what makes you think Joe Biden can beat Trump? And the biggest issue is that not only are the Democrat voters just getting to Joe Biden and showing a lack of enthusiasm, so is the mainstream media, who kind of deputized him as the candidate. They're also not sold on him. There's another wave of people saying, oh, maybe we should go for Cuomo. Can we get Cuomo as our president? That would be great. Let's try to get Cuomo. And yeah, there's a lot of that. If you're into politics, you know what I'm talking about. What the hell is wrong with you guys, Democrats? You have to have enthusiasm, excitement. You have to be committed at least a little bit. Like, I get it. If you're on something like Tinder, commitment's a bad thing. But for a presidential candidate, it's very important. You need to be excited for the guy. You need to believe in his ideologies. Or woman. You need to be excited to go campaign for this person. You need to be a ride or die bitch. And so many of you are not. You only have one issue, and that's to beat Trump. But that's not enough. Beating Trump is not going to fix the economy. Beating Trump is not going to fix wealth inequality. Beating Trump isn't going to do any of that. And just like the coronavirus, they are going to use this against you, to take advantage of you, to take away what you really want. And there I say, what you really need. They're telling you this is a bigger threat. Trump is a bigger threat. Trump's a bigger problem. Don't worry about Medicare for all. Don't worry about fixing wealth inequality. Don't worry about free education. We got to beat Trump now. Pass this bill. Same thing, like I'm saying, with the bailout. Hey, worry about the $1,200, the people who are starving right now. Don't think about all the money we're giving away to big corporations. Every crisis they use to fuck you over. And this kind of Trump crisis, they've been doing it to fuck you over for the last 4 years. And they're finally going to cash in. But the problem is they didn't even plan this right. And they're not even backing their own guy. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe they don't want anyone to beat Trump. I mean, it makes sense. Ratings have never been higher at CNN or MSNBC. I mean, Trump in his own victory was kind of like a 9/11 or a pandemic. People stay glued to their TV now because they want to hear people making them feel better in their bubbles, talking horrible things about Trump. Maybe they want to keep that going. I know a lot of comedian friends who are like, "Hey, I don't like Trump, but he's good for the bits. I'm making more money off him." I'm kidding. I don't say those, some of them do. But the point is the voters, who that's their number one concern, it's just not going to happen. Even you as voters aren't behind this guy. And you most likely caused one of the biggest Democrat exits that the party has seen since the Dixiecrats in the 1960s. Because us Bernie supporters, we've had it. We're done. We can't continue to be your punching bag. It's been 8 years of this, and you're blaming us for every single damn thing. And outcome, November 9th of 2020, you're gonna blame Bernie. You're gonna blame his supporters. They didn't show up. It's the Bernie bros. And you would be right. You really would. But you would be wrong if you were counting on us in the first place. Because after what they've done to us this go around, we're not going to be. They should never think that by coalescing behind someone, by lying about our candidate, by calling us Nazis, for God's sakes, that we would get behind their piece of garbage candidate. Their dementia-ridden, sexually assaulting, allegedly, lunatic candidate. It's not what we're going to do. So, if you are a neo-lib, just already start with it. Blame us, because we ain't showing up. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. You have a great day.